Please rise and pledge allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
One of the second order of business, we have several minutes to approve. First one being January 19th, 2021 work session meeting minutes. Everyone had a chance to review it, and if so, is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, Zach moves.
Second.
On second. And any discussion? Seeing none, Mary Ann, your vote?
Aye.
Neil? I saw you're mute, but I saw you say, yeah, aye, whatever.
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Zach?
Aye.
Bill? Aye. Okay. Second minutes are the January 28th budget work session. Is there a motion?
So moved.
All right, John moves. Is there a second?
A second.
Mary Ann seconds. Any discussion?
Are these mislabeled? I mean,
Is this a meeting election?
well, so it says it's labeled as budget work session, but why is it a budget work session? That seems like a strange label. I mean, it's the conversation to discuss the town meeting and the election with our attorney. The minutes are right. The title seems misleading.
Just change it to work session.
Yeah, I mean, if we drop the word budget, it makes a lot more sense.
Okay. All right. We are amending it to strike budget in the title. Is there a second for that?
Apparently that was my motion, yes.
Okay, there is a motion to accept the amended draft or draft work session. Now you got me totally confused. Budget work session minutes for February 8th, 2021. Oh, crap.
We're on
Oh,
January
wow.
28th.
All right, then I guess there's a problem with, never mind. 28th, there we go.
Yeah. That's why the title's confusing.
Any discussion? Further discussion? John, your vote.
Aye.
Mary Ann.
Aye.
Neil.
Was there a second?
Aye.
Is there a second? Jeez.
Second.
Okay, Neil seconds. John, we had a vote of aye. Mary Ann?
Aye.
Okay, sorry, I'm cheating you. Neil?
Aye.
Jack?
Aye.
Bill? Aye. Dang. Okay. The next one, February 8th work session meeting minutes.
Did you vote on that? There was a motion that came out originally to approve it.
Okay, we got the 28th budget work session.
Yep. And then Zach
All right.
did it. So we need a motion.
I amended we voted on the amendment of the title, but not on the acceptance of the minutes.
Thank you. I just
So
need a
moved.
acceptance of the article as written.
Okay. So Mary Ann moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All right, Neil seconds. John, your vote.
Aye.
Mary Ann.
Aye.
Neil.
Aye.
Zach.
Aye.
Bill. Aye. All right, this is going very well. So,
Probably the same thing on this one. We would remove the budget.
yep.
Okay.
And so we got the February 8th work session meeting minutes. Shall we so do we need a motion to amend it, or let's just say,
Accept it as amended.
all right, so we're amending the meeting minutes to strike budget. Is there I guess a motion?
So moved.
Motion to accept minutes as amended, or second Neil's, whichever you prefer.
All right, we gotta
You got it.
move in a second. Neil, your vote.
Aye.
Mary Ann.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Zach,
Aye.
Bill, aye. All righty. Last but not least, we have the regular meeting minutes for February 8th. Is there a motion?
So moved.
John moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mary Ann seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none. Zach, your vote.
Aye.
Neil,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Mary Ann,
Aye.
Bill, aye. The select board will meet on the following dates. We'll have a regular meeting at 6 p.m. on Monday, March 15th, 2021. Oh, no, actually, it's a work session only that is going to be beginning at 5 p.m. There is no regular meeting on the 15th. And we'll have a work session and a regular meeting on Monday, March 22nd, 2021. Dates for the town meeting. On Saturday, February 27th, 2021, we'll have the first town deliberative session starting at 1 p.m. And then on Saturday, March 6th, 2021, we'll have the second town deliberative session at 1 p.m. All the above meetings will be held via Zoom, and you can find dial-in information at the town's website at plymouth-nh.org. Dates for the town election and voting on warrant articles. On Tuesday, March 9th, 2021, we'll have town elections at Plymouth Elementary School from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then on Saturday, April 17th, 2021, we'll have ballot voting on the warrant articles 2 through 19 at the Plymouth Elementary School, and we'll be voting from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Citizens wishing to be listed on the Select Board's agenda should notify the Town Hall before 12 noon, the Friday before the scheduled meeting. Reopening of town offices. The Town of Plymouth continues to follow the governor's orders and CDC updates and recommendations very closely regarding COVID-19. And at this time, the State of Emergency Order 82 extends Executive Order 2020-04 until March 26th. So due to the COVID-19 concerns and agreement of the town's emergency management director, our town offices will remain closed to the public through Friday, April 9th, 2021. And please continue to check our website and Facebook page for up-to-date planning and information. And if you need something else, don't hesitate to call the Selectman's office at 536-1731 from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. or the Town Clerk's office at 536-1732, 8:30 to 4 p.m. The Tax Collector's office at 536-4733, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. And the only comment that I'd like to bring up is the fact that we have a Meet the Candidates evening. It's going to be a Zoom webinar, and it's going to be on, what's the day for March 3rd? Is it Wednesday?
Yes.
It's going to be Wednesday, March 3rd at 7 p.m. And I want to thank Katharina Kelsey for organizing this, and also Mike Conklin, who's going to be moderating this meeting once again. He did so last year. And Joyce Weston for acting as a chat monitor to relay the questions. And the Zoom links will be posted on the town website and also the Facebook pages for both the Select Board's, Facebook, Town Clerk, and PBTV. And if you haven't seen, the announcement of the session and the candidate session have already been printed in the Laconia Sun. They've been very generous, as well as an announcement was also in the Record Enterprise. And they're going to be printing the bios next week. And the format will be similar to last year. The session will start with the candidate having the opportunity to tell a little bit about him or herself. They'll have 3 minutes, and then we have 4 questions that are going to be given from, actually harvested from last year's questions, and then we'll take questions from the audience. So be sure to check out the link and ask your next select board member questions. Very good. All right. We have several appointments to go through. Shall we go through them? I guess so. The first is Rebecca Hanson for reappointment to the planning board. And she requested reappointment in a letter we received. She's writing in request to renew my appointment on the Plymouth Planning Board. I have been on the board since November 2014 and have been serving as the board chair for a number of years. I'm excited to continue to learn and serve my community. Please let me know if you need any additional information. Sincerely, Rebecca Hanson. Is there a motion?
I move that we reappoint Rebecca Hanson to the
All right,
planning
Neil,
board.
thank you. Is there a
Second.
second? All right, John seconds. Beat up Mary Ann, I'm sorry, even though she's on the board.
Aye.
And so any discussion, and seeing or hearing none, Mary Ann, your vote.
Aye.
Neil?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Zach?
Aye.
And Bill? Aye. Phew. Okay. The second person volunteering is Michael Bouchard. Sir Michael wants to be appointed as an alternate to the planning board. And his email stated, Kathy, dear Board of Selectmen, okay. I would like to submit my candidacy for planning board. I am happy to accept either a full seated position or an alternate position. I will be following up with an updated career resume and reference shortly. Thank you, Michael. Oops, man, sorry. Is there a motion to accept
I move
Michael's?
that we appoint Michael as an alternate.
Okay,
I make a
Neil?
motion, we appoint Michael as an alternate for the planning board.
all right, I'll take that as a second. Any discussion?
Is the planning board full? Is that why we're going with alternate here?
I'm pretty certain of that, yeah. I think they've had, I see June's shaking her head yes, so. And I think we can have unlimited alternates, right? Or is there a limit to a number of alternates or?
Right.
I believe it's 5,
Okay,
including the Board of Selectmen alternate. So these
Ooh.
2 alternates coming up would be a full board.
huh, wow. That's amazing. Must be June. You've attracted all the cream of the crop for this town. So therefore we had anyway, Zach, your vote.
Aye.
Neil,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Mary Ann.
Aye.
Bill, aye. Congratulations.
Before we move, what's the number of people that are on the planning board?
7, right? 7 full-time and 5 alternates. Okay. Hey, I got it right. June's shaking her head. All right.
Is that 7th includes Mary Ann? Is that how you got to
No.
7?
Yes.
She's an alternate. Well, no, wait.
No, she's a voting member, full
She's
vote.
a board rep
Right, but
That's
that 7
both
includes
being
the
an
board rep.
in a way.
Okay.
Okay, so the next volunteer is Susan Wood, and she's seeking appointment as alternate to the planning board as well. So this is
I
the
move
Kathy.
that we appoint Susan Wood as an
All right, you
alternate.
don't want to hear her letter? That's okay. Thank you, Neil. I appreciate the motion. Is there a second? Was
I'll
there a
second.
Okay, Mary Ann seconds.
Second.
Okay, we got 2 seconds, but let me just briefly read her thing too. She's been a lifelong resident of the town of Plymouth, owning farm property with my family since 1952. It continues to this day with an equine facility located on the same property on New Haven Road. There have been many changes to the town in the last 10 years, and I would like the opportunity to work with the board in future planning and development of this town. We have many wonderful resources in this town and feel that these all need to continue to be protected while at the same time allow positive change to happen. Please let me know if I can need anything further. Susan Wood. Very nice. So, Zach, your vote.
Aye.
Neil,
Hi.
John,
Aye.
Mary Ann,
Aye.
Bill, aye. All right, so these 3 will be in the signatures when you come in.
That's great.
All right, the last item under appointments is we need to vote to appoint Catherine Lowe as the town's authorized representative for the purposes.
That's the proposed staggering.
Oh.
Right before that.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay.
All right, there is a notation to vote on proposed staggered appointments to the planning board. And do you want to have someone describe what this, okay, June, would you mind describing the need for staggered appointments?
Sure, thanks. So one thing we discovered, and just looking over when I came in, the list of planning board members, there was 4 members that all, their terms expired in April 2024, I believe. So it's not good practice or recommended even by state statutes and state guidelines to have that kind of exodus potentially in 1 year. So you want to stagger the terms. So I've talked to the planning board members about this, and we were proposing to change the term of 2 members, one so that they would be, so we would have 1 or 2 members each year. Their terms would come up. So that's what's in the memo for you there. It's just a readjustment. The board members are fine with it, and it will bring everything in better practice for how our planning board would go ahead.
Okay, makes sense. It's, I just couldn't put it in your bylaws, but I guess it has to be a town. Makes sense, I guess, to have it in the town. But so therefore, is there a motion to stagger the appointments for the planning board?
So move.
All right, John
Second.
moves. Neil seconds. Any discussion?
Just to clarify, since I don't think anybody said it out loud, this is taking Phil Lemereau and extending his end date to April 2024, an extra year, and then shortening Carl Evans by a year and having him end at April 2022. Just saying that out loud so that anybody who's listening and doesn't have this sheet of paper in front of them knows what we're talking about.
Okay. Thank you, Zach. All right. Any other discussion? Neil, your vote.
Aye.
Mary Ann?
Aye.
Zach?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Bill? Aye. Okay. The next item is a vote to appoint Catherine Lowe as the town's authorized representative for the purposes of stormwater management infrastructure project. This is where Kathy's going to obligate her.
Obligate Jan to explain.
Okay. June, would you like to explain?
Give an update.
Happy to. Yeah, so the town manager asked me to just explain this because since she's going to be the one appointed, she thought it was good to have somebody else kind of give the overview. So I think it was on Thursday, late in the day, we got a letter, a non-binding commitment letter from the Economic Development Administration regarding the proposal for grant funds for our stormwater infrastructure project down in the downtown South Main Street kind of area between Russell Street and Main Street, Railroad Square down the river. So it's good news. However, overall pretty good news. There's a list of about 12 items that we still have to submit to them and just wanted some clarification on. And we had a meeting today with EDA about that. So everything seems, this week we're going to get the things together, get one more phone call tomorrow with the consulting engineers to work out one piece. But one of the 12 items was that they wanted a resolution authorizing somebody, and certainly the town manager is the appropriate person, to be the authorized representative for the town for this project. So that would, that's what the resolution you have in front of you, that basically they're just requiring this. And so we are designating somebody, the town manager in this case, to serve, to be the person to oversee any documents, sign things. This letter we have to send back by the end of this week, we would have her do that. And they just need one point of contact really and authority for her designation of that.
Thanks, Jen. Everyone has this in their packets. If you haven't, read it yet, probably should already be aware. Regardless, is there a motion to accept Kathy as a signatory?
So moved.
Second.
John moves, Zach seconds. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none. Mary Ann, your vote?
Aye.
Neil?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Zach?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Bill, did you say yes?
Oh, yes. Bill says yes. All righty. PSU update. I assume that Dr. Burks and Marlon are still here. And
Yes, we are.
very good. Well, you're on.
Yeah. President Burks, I'll let you take the floor.
All right, Marlon, if I say something wrong, just yell, all right?
Don't worry.
As many of you know, and I think some of you tuned into the, I don't know, you call a webinar that we had, or town hall, earlier last week. And at that time, we went into lockdown, basically, on campus. The biggest thing I think that we did that has impact is we did takeouts from the dining hall, so that that was one place where students could meet up. And we knew that students were getting together in small groups. Probably that's where some of this started, but a lot of them have exchanged through the dining hall. So we have gone to outsourcing that, or outdooring. We also are outsourcing some of the support for the students that are off campus, that are in hotels. So we're doing pretty good with the isolation. I think the last I looked at it, we were about 77% occupancy. But we also added another hotel down in Tilton. So we've got 3 places now that we use for quarantining. We figure about, when we did the going remote, we figure about 250 to 500 students left campus because we gave them a defined time of which that could occur. So their plan is to start on Monday. It's still our plan. We're going to evaluate it on Wednesday to see if that makes sense. We're at about 220 cases. Of course, not all of them are on campus. I'd say maybe, let me check how many there were on campus. Probably, well, looking at this, it's probably 92, roughly. Not on campus really, but in the area with one of the hotels. So, or staying in there off campus. So we're going to watch it. We're doing testing. We did testing all through the weekend. We've got 3 residence halls that have cluster in them, cluster being 3 or more students that have the virus. So we did testing with them over the weekend. And now we're going to do multiple testing in the coming weeks. So we'll instead of having 1 round and 3 rounds for the athletics teams, we're going to go 2 rounds for everybody. So athletics, of course, is halted as well over this period of time. So I just talked to my sister tonight. She says we're doing all the right things to keep it under control. What's interesting from her viewpoint is that no one knows what the background is in the area. So the only thing I would say to keep an eye out for is if we're the only ones really doing testing, and almost all the students are asymptomatic. So there could be more in the community than we think. That's the only thing we're not sure of. We don't really have a way to test the broader community, but we know what it is on campus, and we're trying to do everything we can to isolate and protect those off campus as well as faculty and staff. So the faculty seem to have adjusted pretty well to going remote. The students seem to have handled it pretty well so far as well. I guess just the days ahead will tell us whether it's working or not. As you probably know, UNH had the problem about a week before us. They're starting to have declining numbers. We haven't seen that yet. Of course, we focused our testing on the areas where there were hotspots. So it's really hard to tell, but we ran a series of full testing today, and we will run the rest of it tomorrow. And that will give us a really good idea of how many students are around on campus. And also it'll give us an idea of what's happening with the virus and see if we're getting it under control. One thing just to tell you, and I think I said this maybe in the town hall we had, or maybe we had it in a discussion with the state, our transmission rate is roughly 33%, which means that if a student was in close contact with another student that had the virus, as they define close contact, more than I think 10 or 15 minutes, the chances of them getting it were about 33%. This was far higher than it was last semester. So we're also getting an analysis done of the variants that might be present, just to make sure that that's not an issue. We don't really understand why the transmission rate is higher this semester than it was last semester. In fact, last semester, very few of the quarantine students came down with the virus. So that's kind of all, we're looking into it with the state. There's Marlon's meeting with them regularly. They're giving us advice on just about everything, and they're fully informed. So we're just going to follow through this process remote for this week, and then we'll evaluate whether we stay remote for longer or not. So if you follow our trigger chart, we're in mostly green, but 3 or 4 key areas we're in yellow, and 1 key area we're in red, only because we changed the numbers for that. If we would have done it by last semester, we would be in yellow. So we do have 1 red. They're all up online if you want to see everything. And we update, of course, every day with the testing results. So that just gives you a quick overview of what's going on. I don't know if you have any questions. That's sort of everything that happened since the last town hall, which was last Wednesday. So we'll know a lot more in about 2 days.
And if I can, I'll just add that we've had, I want to thank Scott, who I see on the call, and Chief Morrison and Chief Lefebvre. We're keeping them regularly informed. Scott and I have talked a couple of times just so that everybody knows what's happening and where our students are. As President Burke said, we're now using the O'Connell Lodge in Plymouth and the Quality Inn in Ashland, and then we will be opening up at the Super 8 in Tilton at some point later this week as our 3rd facility. I think another piece of good news for our students and for the local economy is that we are outsourcing all of our food for isolation and quarantine students to the Common Man. So they have come to us and given us a really good proposal for them to be able to provide hot food for all of our students that are off campus. And they're very excited because I think it's going to help them with some of their workers who need work. And I think it'll be a good thing for the community as well. And I think my only concern is I think we're going to have a lot of kids who are going to be like, wow, I want common man food, right? That's great. So, but that's, I think, a nice thing for us to be able to partner with the common man to do that.
And I don't know if you want to say anything, but we're starting to work with an outside firm on contact tracing.
Yeah, so we're also contracting with a firm called Rapid Trace. We've been doing our own contact tracing team of 4 people who have been literally working tirelessly since August round the clock. And so we're bringing in some folks who've done this for other schools to support that team, and that will be in place early next week. And then the other thing that we've added this semester is we're using, again, a local firm called Summit Health, who is handling all of the physical health check-ins and mental health check-ins daily for all of our positive students. So they check in with them every day to check on symptoms, take their blood oxygen levels, take their temperatures, and give them resources that they might need, both from a health standpoint and from a mental health standpoint. So that's another thing that we've added, which I think is really important.
Thanks, Marla and Don. Actually,
I-
what's that?
Can I speak, Bill?
Sure.
I personally want to thank you for all the planning and precautions and efforts that you put into this horrible situation, and I hope that you're successful in all your efforts.
Thank you, Neil.
Thanks. Yes.
And I would also add the community has been great, as always. But I mean, even in the last week, have numerous people who have called me and emailed and say, if you need anything, if your students need anything, let us know. And also folks that have called to say, I've seen some concerning behavior. Can you look into that? And that's kind of the calls we do with Scott and Steve and Chief Morrison and Steve Temperino on campus to make sure that we're looking at all of that. So I hope that continues.
Thanks, Marilyn. I just wanted to say that it was really nice that you did town hall with Dr. Birch's much younger sister. I thought that was very, very well done. And I got a question actually about the variants. What, or at least the genetic testing on your PCR positives, is that going to be done at the public health labs, or
Yes.
is that okay?
Yeah. So what will happen is we will be sending them a random sampling of the positive tests we've gotten, those tests, which we keep for 3 days, and then they will run that through the public health lab to see if they're seeing any variants. They've just kind of started doing that, I think, Bill, in the last 10 days or so. So we do almost daily calls with the health department, and then a weekly call with Dr. Chen and Dr. Daly to kind of go over everything that's going on and make sure that they're in agreement with what we're doing, and then get their advice on additional steps we can take. And variant testing was one of those.
Very good. Okay.
Your criteria for reopening again on March 1st. How do you evaluate that?
Yeah, I had that question earlier today from the faculty steering committee. And really what it comes down to is this. What we're trying to see is if we can get the virus stabilized on campus and get it decreasing. So we're trying to get it so that we get it, and we'll know after this, and that's why we're going to evaluate Wednesday. We want to know that we're not on an increasing trend on the virus, that we're on a decreasing trend. In other words, it'll take several weeks for us to be down to a base level. But if we can get the process started, we'll probably stick with to-go orders for a long time to follow that through. But the real goal here really is to see if we can reverse the trend, which was very abrupt. I think those of you who saw the town hall know that we went from roughly an average of about 30 cases a week, suddenly up to the numbers we have today. There was really no warning, it just happened. So what you want to make really sure about is that you've got the virus conditions stabilized. So instead of going up, you're heading down in a downward trend. So, and then we want to watch carefully to know, how the trend goes. That's why we're testing all through the week, and we'll be in a much better picture. My guess is by Wednesday, we'll see it. We'll see the downward trend. We'll probably still be planning on Monday, but we're also looking at the alternate of Wednesday now in case the trend does not come down the way we hoped. But it's really about stabilization and a downward trend versus an upward trend.
Okay.
And again, I would just emphasize that plymouth.edu, if you click, when you go there, if you click on the spring opening, Marianne, you'll see our trigger points, which kind of tell us, and our goal is going to be that we're going to see those trigger points begin to go in the right direction. And those are updated Monday through Friday every day.
Thanks, Marlon.
Sure.
Marlon, I'd like to just say thank you to you and Dr. Burks for keeping us involved. And if there's anything you need us to do, we're always there to take the call and research or look into something that you may need. So I appreciate all your efforts as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks much.
Well, thanks very much for joining us. And geez, I hope you're getting your sleep.
Every once in a while.
Every once in a while. Yeah. Catch it when we can.
Good. All
Thanks,
right.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks all. We'll see ya.
Bye-bye.
Here, see you. And Scott, do you want to give us the emergency management decision? Yeah, decision director update. Oh, you're on mute.
Yeah, just as we discussed before, Bill, is that the emergency orders and executive orders that are in place, which lead us and give us the guidance on keeping the town office closed through April 9th, as we always try to go 2 weeks beyond the target date, which currently is March 26th for the last executive order of 2021-02, which was the 16th extension of the state of emergency. Other things Marlon kind of covered is that we have been working hand in hand with them with regards to investigating some things that they asked us to look into with regards to a couple establishments in town, as well as they've been keeping us up to date on the movement of students around campus and what has been going on off campus. Other than that, like I said, with the establishments, we've reviewed the Safer at Home 2.0 restaurant guidance and making sure that the restaurants understand what's included in the restaurant guidance and the updated information, as we want to be able to be a community partner and make sure that they understand that information and are adhering to it. The other thing is we are currently working on the hazard mitigation plan. Our meetings will start mid-April and run through the first part of August with a mitigation plan in place by September 1st, which meets our deadline, which our plan is updated every 5 years. So we're looking forward to getting started on that and having June join us in that project as well. But that's just a quick update with regards to what we've been working on over the past couple weeks.
Thanks very much, Scott. Any other questions from any questions with Scott, or? Seeing none, we have new and other business. First is to rescind police authority from Keith True, a PSU officer. And
It's just a request to rescind their authority as Plymouth police officers because they no longer work for PSU.
okay, I guess that's
So
what.
both of them.
All right. All right. Similarly, it's the same deal with the rescind police authority from Dennis Rector, as a former PS.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Can we?
Both resigned. So.
All right. So they both resigned, and therefore, can we have a motion to rescind police authorities from both those individuals?
So moved.
Second,
All right,
So
Mary Ann moves, Neil seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none. John, your vote.
Aye.
Neil?
aye.
Mary Ann?
Aye.
Zach?
Aye.
Bill? Aye. All right. Tejasena Sivalingam is requested for a reconsideration of the decision made by the Board of Selectmen on 11/12/2020 regarding religious exemptions. Tejasena, oh, there you are. Okay.
Good evening. I'm represented by counsel E. David Smith, Esquire.
Okay.
Good evening, Honorable Select Board. Thank you for giving Mr. Sivalingam the hearing. I'm here to represent him today on his application to be exempted from the Select Board's Emergency Public Health Order of August the 10th, 2020, which mandates face coverings. I'm an attorney at law admitted in the states of New York, New Jersey, and Georgia, and appear here under the authority of Rules 5.5C2 and 5.5C4 of the New Hampshire Rules of Professional Conduct, and the case Amy M. versus Timberlane Regular School District, 2000 U.S. Districts, Lexus 20937. Mr. Sivalingam is here to promote human life free of the management of bureaucrats and equally free of the dictates of mob rule, which contradicts the protections afforded to the minorities by our republic. In seeking to breathe freely and keep his face and smile visible to all, in keeping with the dictates of his religious beliefs, he is not any threat to the health of anybody or the cause of anybody's death. In fact, he comes to preserve life, not just his life, but your life too. General John Stark, a New Hampshire native, said, "Live free or die." We all know that because this is the official motto of this state of New Hampshire. But what is not as well known is that General Stark's statement contains a colon, and the sentence continued with an additional message for all time. Death is not the worst of evils. This is even more important than live free or die. General Stark is telling us that we can't live free unless we realize that death is not the worst of evils. The governor and the CDC and the public health officials would have us believe that death is the worst of evils. And in the name of avoiding death, we should agree to destroy all that lives and all the higher aspirations and values of a human being. In their world, it becomes evil to breathe, to smile, and to be in contact with others. By now, it is evident that this is not a short-term inconvenience, but rather a radical, long-term lifestyle change, where mask wearing and human avoidance will be permanently required, even after the vaccines. The idea that a human being can spread disease agents and cause others to become ill from merely exposing his face is appealing, and we do see that children go through a phase in believing that, but it is not befitting a mature society. We are not so weak that human interaction will leave us dead. In fact, infection survival rates may be as high as 99.998%. That's 99.998%. Even the case survival rate in the United States, as updated by Johns Hopkins University at 5:23 p.m. today on their coronavirus website, including all nursing homes and all people who tested positive but died of other causes and so forth, the case survival rate is 98.225%. But far fewer people will survive a government that runs roughshod over the right to breathe freely, meet with family and friends, make a living, attend group education, and restrict travel. No greater means to terrify the people into surrendering their rights can be conceived than the fear of death from something in the air. And that is precisely why the threat of disease, real or exaggerated, has been the most effective way to bring about population control. In fact, the fear of disease was a prime tactic of the Nazi public health war on the people, first against the Germans, and then expanding to the Jews and others under their dominion. My client recognizes the challenge faced by you, the Select Board, bombarded by constant fearful information and the idea that you are responsible to have healthy outcomes for everybody. It becomes difficult to think clearly. But amidst the fear, it is critical to uphold the principles that preserve life from dangers much greater than any virus. The select board is not free to eradicate religious liberties because it feels fear or panic, nor because everyone else is doing it. There is no scientific or medical basis for these measures, but that is not before us today because the residents of this town, or actually the select board, has already chosen to set aside science and fact and impose upon themselves a mask requirement. In my review of the earlier minutes and the testimony, it appears that the mask mandate was adopted not after careful investigation and testimony, but after adoption of the conclusion of others. Innocently, I might add, since if a man is told he is about to die and that death is the worst of evils, there's no limit to what he might do in his desperation, including suspending his life, his family, and all inquiry, all logic, all measure, and all reasonableness. However, in the zeal to avoid death as the worst of evils, the select board members cannot do evil to your fellow man and force him to transgress his religious beliefs and practices and conscience. And the select board cannot take cover under the governor's order because the governor did not mandate that the select board make a mask order. The select board has volunteered to step into this fray by creating a separate mask mandate, separate and apart from that of the governor's. There was no need for the select board to get involved in masks in the first place, and it cannot excuse its involvement by saying that the governor has also made a mask mandate. Following orders or following higher levels of government does not excuse responsibility. Now, it is not for Mr. Shivalingnam to question your philosophy and your religious beliefs, because undoubtedly there are those religious leaders that may influence you that have placed the fear of death ahead of traditional belief and practice. But that is about your religious beliefs. The fact that you can rationalize wearing a mask in your religious beliefs is about your religious beliefs. But this is exactly why the Declaration of Independence and the United States Constitution and the New Hampshire Constitution prevent you from imposing your religious beliefs and compromises on those who don't. My clients' religious beliefs are not wavering and not subject to change based on the drumbeats of the CDC and the World Health Organization and the scientists they fund and the media. Real or imagined, the prevailing threat and fear of death by breath is not a factor in my clients' religious beliefs. In recent times, there has developed a legal mistake, which is that if a government action affects all equally, it is therefore permissible. To quote from this select board's letter of November the 12th, 2020, quote, "The board has been advised that under this ordinance, they are not discriminatory as long as the ordinance applies to each and every religion, race, gender, etc., of which it does, and no exemptions should be allowed." This was already tried by previous tyrants. King Darius banned all prayer equally in the book of Daniel, chapter 6. The king's advisors used the trick we have before us today on King Darius and the citizens by making the ban apply to everyone equally and making it uniform and unchangeable without exception. We are not the first generation to be lulled by the seeming equity of equally applied decrees. Really equally applied tyranny. The line of legal thinking that the select board relies on is dangerously wrong. This incorrectly places non-discrimination as the highest ideal. It is service of God which is our highest ideal. You cannot ban the service of God by claiming since it meets the non-discrimination test, it is therefore valid. The Constitution of the Bill of Rights limits government actions that would detract from the rights of the people. Limiting everyone's rights equally is an attack on the rights of all equally. The King of England may have discriminated against the Pilgrims, but they would not have been acting more rightly if they had equally banned all forms of prayer. What an absurd idea that if you deny everyone's right, it's acceptable because it does not discriminate. King George himself would have shuddered at such a state of human thinking. As Mr. Randlett previously pointed out in the November 9th, 2020 meeting, different religious beliefs should be respected. He is 100% right, and his sense of that should not then be overridden by deferring to the town council. It is a mistake to bureaucratize the decision by deferring to the town legal counsel for his opinion, which then supersedes that of the people. It is also irrelevant to look to other towns first before deciding what is right to do. The true plague of our times is surrendering our own thinking to that of experts, be it medical experts or legal experts. The select board should make its decision based on what is right, not based on its retained legal expert's opinion. Mr. McIver has stated that he has no intention of discriminating against my client, but the net effect is that the town is demanding that my client set aside his religious beliefs in order to receive services in this town and provide for his living needs in this town, which it is the commercial center for goods and services closest to his home. I hope that the Select Board will take the time to read the book My Opposition by Friedrich Kellner, the diary of a German against the Third Reich. He was a town in a small German town just like Plymouth, and you will recognize the increasing intolerance of those who think independently, the increasing reliance on experts, the increasing reliance on conformity, the increasing justification für Ihre Sicherheit, for your safety. That an exemption can be created for medical reasons, as the town order does, shows that there is no imminent and present danger from someone not wearing a mask. And there's no basis to give greater precedence to a medical reason over a religious reason. In fact, our current situation results from putting the body ahead of the soul. In 2018, the town enacted the Community Rights-Based Ordinance, which under Section 4E makes it unlawful for the Select Board to violate rights protected by the ordinance. It requires matters affecting the rights of the people to be put to a vote of the people. It is a great imposition on the rights of the people to exclude from town services and town commerce those who do not wear a mask for any reason and for religious reasons. The mask ordinance was not enacted using the proper procedure. The mask ordinance is not a procurement of sand for road treatment, which would appear to be within the jurisdiction of the Select Board. The mask ordinance is not within the jurisdiction of the Select Board, and the Select Board should recognize its error and reverse the ordinance on that basis without prejudice for those that support it following the proper procedures under the RBO. The RBO specifically goes to great length to reassert the Declaration of Rights of the Declaration of Independence, and to reassert the strict limitations that the people have placed upon their federal and state governments and local governments. Now, we certainly pray that the Select Board will recall the words of General Stark and reverse the entire mask mandate, and in the meantime, will duly exempt those whose religious beliefs prohibit their wearing a mask. This would be the right result, and avoid the need to further escalate this matter and to put it to test in a court. Yet if God forbid the Select Board should not reverse the mandate and not create the exemption, and you later see my client walking in the streets with his face visible, his smile shared freely with all and his breath flowing freely, do not take it as defiance of this Select Board, but rather allegiance to God Almighty, to the bedrock of America, and to keep all of us free from a government that has so fallen under the spell of public health as to give no quarter to those who believe in God. This is the freedom that will keep all of us alive. He will be a reminder to the residents and children of this town of how a free man, a free human being looks and acts no matter how much fear has taken hold. And that is an act of love to save your lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Smith. So I have a question. So what remedy or what does your client request of us?
Well, on the highest level would be to reverse the mask order completely.
Okay.
The second would be that the mask order, emergency order, should state that a person is exempted from wearing a mask for religious reasons.
Okay. And, we did provide your client with our attorney's opinion for the fact that we weren't discriminating based on religion. And the mask ordinance was within the rights of the Select Board to, formulate it and pass it. So I think we're kind of bound by that agreement that we did. And I didn't, or maybe you seem to think that we were tied by the governor's order. We weren't. We do recognize that we're separate. But even if we were to do away with our order, there still would be a governor's order for mask wearing as well, without a religious exemption. So I don't think we have too many options because we've already had our attorney weigh in on it. We're certain about our right as a board to pass that ordinance, and I don't know if there's anything further we can do with this. Yes.
I'm sorry. If I just wanted to address the point with as I addressed in my statement, the opinion of the town council. The town council is merely providing a negative opinion that it's not discriminating, which I said that in itself is not a justification for allowing it to occur. Just non-discrimination is not the standard. But more, just as importantly, it's important to realize that the select board has the final decision. The town council did not give an opinion that it would be forbidden, unethical, illegal, unconstitutional to provide a religious exemption. He just said that as it's currently structured, it's not discriminatory. And therefore, on a discrimination basis, his opinion is you would not have to change it. But he's not saying you can't change it. He's not saying you cannot provide a religious exemption. So I think that's important for the board to consider that take the legal opinion of the town council. He's not telling you not to change it. He's telling you that, in his opinion, he feels it's not discriminatory. Now, as I said before, I still believe it's not right to blanket prevent everyone, including for religious reasons, people to wear a mask, or prevent everyone from showing their faces and breathing freely, which excludes people with religious beliefs from the town. That's wrong, even if it's not discriminating. But as a council, from a legal perspective, I believe that you do have the opportunity and the ability and the legal right to represent the people by saying that you will create a religious exemption.
Okay, I appreciate that. I got to admit that it's rather bad timing to come forward with this for the fact that we just heard a report from PSU with their 220 cases on campus, and we're celebrating 500,000 dead Americans because of this disease. And it's proven that masks do stop the transmission of droplets that would go from person to person. And the fact that you heard Dr. Burks, whose sister is an expert on COVID transmission, and she is aware that there are a lot, probably far more asymptomatic cases going around right now, transmitting diseases without them realizing it. And yeah, it's fearful. I regret the fact that we're admitting that it's fearful, but it's fearful to be transmitting disease. So I'm not certain, unless the board wants to disagree, I'm not certain that there's anything more we can do with this. And I appreciate your time, I guess. Are there any comments from the board, or?
If I may, I just want to address the fear factor. I did hear Dr. Burks's comments, and I'm also an alum of University of California, Berkeley, having studied infectious diseases and virology there. And I'd be happy to have a one-to-one or a public conversation with Dr. Burks, but I do believe that the approach taken by his sister is absolutely defeating the rights of people in the United States of America. And I would not defer, or she's not before the board right now. The board can't rely on media reports. And as Dr. Burks, the one local Dr. Burks said, and I don't know if he gave an exact number, but it seemed like almost all, if not all, of the cases in the university were asymptomatic. And that goes to the point of the survival rate is extremely high. And that is not something that justifies suspending people's religious rights on the basis of the fear that it could possibly go from a student to somebody else, to somebody else, to somebody else. That's just not a basis on which we decide people's rights and their ability to shop, their ability to provide for their families. And I don't think that the board has done sufficient investigation. Also regards to although it's not before the board at this moment, and I don't know it was considered, but there's plenty of scientific studies from the United States and abroad that question the effectiveness of masks. And that would be within the purview of the citizens of Plymouth to evaluate that. But even if they are effective, and even if there is a risk of death to a certain percentage of the population, the fact is that the town did create a medical exemption, which means that those people with a medical exemption were actually, ironically, I don't want to say ironically in a sarcastic way, but I mean, they are more likely to have comorbidities, are walking around and allowed to walk around freely in the town of Plymouth without a mask. Whereas people who are healthy but have religious reasons why not to wear a mask are not allowed to walk in the town of Plymouth without a mask or to shop without a mask. So if it was really about the numbers and really about the science, even taking the signs and the numbers as are presented in the worst case scenario, the town of Plymouth has already created a medical exemption. And I think that it would be appropriate to create a religious exemption, which is, as I said, is just as important. That the matters of the soul are as important, if not more important, than the matters of the body. So thank you for the consideration.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate your discussion. So I guess that's it.
You want a motion to adjourn?
Sure.
I see someone's hand is up there on the left, by the way. I don't know if you noticed that.
Who's up on the left?
There's a hand raised in one of the participants.
Which hand? My left is Neil, and I guess the motion to adjourn. But,
David and Phyllis Nash.
oh. Okay. David and Phyllis Nash. You're muted.
Comment here. Okay. Hi there.
Hey.
The whole discussion is, I'm obviously in sympathy with Teja Singha because of my wife and I wrote the letter asking for the religious exemption also. But the additional things that are troubling here is that, Bill, when you use quotes that there's 500,000 people that have died from this, there's no debate that the statistics of COVID have been far skewed by people dying from heart attacks, and they list it as COVID, and people dying of stage 4 cancer, and they list it as COVID, and all of that. So let's get real. First of all, that 500,000 deaths have not happened from COVID. That it's the government, the whoever, the money making scheme that has happened, that you call it a COVID thing and you'll get paid so much money. They're asking churches to, they're giving money to churches if they'll do certain things and to be in sympathy with the COVID scare. And I'm going to diverge here a little bit, that we're all out in our community with masks, shopping, going to restaurants and everything else. And I want to ask the board, why are we having virtual meetings still? Why are we having a virtual meeting? I mean, it's convenient. We've been to church on virtual meetings. We've had dinner with friends on virtual meetings. We've been on board meetings with virtual meetings, but why is the town of Plymouth still having virtual meetings when everybody is socializing and out in the community with their masks on in every supermarket and hardware store and everything else, and we're still having virtual meetings? Now, if you want to limit the number of people that come to virtual meeting or come to attend an actual meeting at the town hall or the town meeting or what have you, then that's one thing, and everybody else can attend virtually. But this persistence of virtual meetings and everybody stay, at an arm's length from each other is got to stop. So, but speaking more to Teja Singha's request, and Attorney Smith, that was I'll just applaud you for your insight and your words there on and and I'm just like almost without words because I'm just flabbergasted.
There's no more unity anymore. There's so much division going on with all of this, and it needs to stop. We need to come together. We need to be united. And this mask and the separations, 6 feet rule and all that is dividing people. Let's get back to where we were before all this started.
The one more point to Teja Singh's argument is that you pick your own personal thing that you would be incensed by if somebody took that right away from you, and apply it to Teja Singh and apply it to Phyllis and me. Go ahead, pick something that you would be incensed by if you were discriminated in this way. We all have one thing that you would abhor if somebody discriminated you against for that one item, for that one personal belief of yours. But the board is taking this liberty to take away somebody's religious, faith-based, moral decision and saying, oh, our attorney said, no problem. It's not discriminatory. Well, apply it to your own personal life and ask if it's not discriminatory. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Jenny.
What's that?
Jenny.
Jenny has her hand up as well. Jenny.
I don't know if I missed it or not, but I just wanted to check in terms of the state order, regardless whether we have, I know we did our order first, but regardless of whether we have an order, there's still a state order which would affect all of these exact same examples, right?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, because even if Plymouth chose not to do ours, the people who are being affected by the religious request for exemption would still have to wear their masks, right? I just want to make sure that I'm clear. I'm sorry about my cat. I just want to make sure that I'm clear in those two discussion points.
Yeah, yes, you're correct.
Okay, thank you.
And I got to sympathize with David and Phyllis for the fact that I will welcome the day when we can actually go out to eat without a mask on and, just have a normal life. I don't think it's going to be that swift. It might be, 6 months, hopefully, but I'm willing to sacrifice some individual freedoms in order to make sure that, people are safe. So, but that's me. Anyway, I guess I'm not speaking for the board, but any other comments or questions?
I'd like to, if I may, Bill, just read this last of the governor's order. A person who declines to wear a mask or face covering because of medical or developmental issue or difficulty breathing shall not be required to produce documentation or other evidence verifying the condition. Not sure if you all were aware of the end of that provision in the governor's edicts. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Well, any other hands up or questions or comments? Well,
I have a question.
Who is that? Or
My name is Randy Hebert. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Well, I have a question for the board. I wanted to direct this to everybody. Hypothetical question. So you're standing at a railroad track and there is a T-switch. Straight ahead down the railroad track, you find a very large group of people. Off to the right of the T-switch, there's a small group of people. Straight ahead, you notice that there is a train coming down the track, run away. What do you do? Anyone, what do you do? Do you let the train come straight down the track and hit the large group of people? Do you throw the T-switch and divert the train off to the right to the small group of people? What do you do?
I've been dominating the conversation, so.
I think, you know, classic arguments around logic and ethics maybe aren't the appropriate thing for us to engage in a public debate.
Okay, well, I believe the correct answer would be, who has the right to pick who lives and who dies? Does the government have the right to pick and choose who lives and who dies? Do you have the right to pick and choose? Is that something that we're all playing God? God is the only one that has the right to pick and choose who lives and who dies. In regards to the masks working, I've contacted New Hampshire CDC. They really don't have anything showing that the masks work. The only thing they have on record is a study from August 2020 to December of 2020 where they had tracked high school hockey students in their season, showing them wearing masks that only increased the case count. I really don't know where you're getting your information from, because I've checked with the CDC of New Hampshire and I've checked with Health and Human Services of New Hampshire. And there really is no data showing any of these things that Dr. Chan's referring to in regards to SARS-CoV-2. So I don't know where the governor, I don't know where they're getting their information from, but it's not within Health and Human Services. I understand that everybody wants to do better. Everybody wants to try to make a difference. And we all can definitely do health better, no doubt. How many students have died at Plymouth State U from contracting all these cases that are going up? I haven't seen any. The mortality rate is 99.9996 in New Hampshire. For the total deaths starting in the beginning of March of 2022 now, if it's 1,200, we have 1.357 million people in the state. The survival rate, you have a better chance of getting killed by lightning than you do of dying of this virus. I strongly urge you to reconsider all these orders and start critical thinking and looking at more than just what you're being told. Because the information's out there. You just have to look. I strongly urge you to follow Teja Singh's lawyer's advice, religious exemptions, mask exemptions, getting back to living, because it is truly dividing people. People are scared. I understand the fear factor, but in order to understand fear, you have to face fear. We have to know what we're truly facing. I don't understand why mortality rates are not being considered. That is my question. We originally started sheltering in place and doing this because we didn't know anything to flatten the curve. And then it changed from death counts to case increases. Treatments are better. They have all sorts of things coming out. I'm not saying that the virus doesn't exist, but I do know they haven't isolated it. And I do know that they have not truly identified it. And I do know that the PCR tests do not accurately identify SARS-CoV-2. It's used to identify influenzas in general. But this is just from looking and reading, not relying on somebody's opinion and being told. It's out there. That's all I have to ask. I just strongly ask Plymouth. I ask the entire state. But somebody can start. You guys could be the first town to lead us out of this narrative, because it's truly not about health. Health is important. Health is definitely something that we need to consider, but we also have to consider our right to live and also our right to die. Thank you.
All right.
I appreciate your time.
And thank you for your opinion. And we have a motion on the table. Neil, you motion to adjourn?
I'll second.
Okay. Zach seconds. Neil, your vote? Oh, you got to unmute. Zach, your vote?
Aye.
Mary Ann?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Neil, I heard, and Bill, aye. We're adjourned.